folks, now, welcome to the Pirate Round. I be Captain Scultopus here, and this be the Scarlet Raven. And we're here in our smuggler's cave, enjoying a little bit of this Jamaican Mountain Red, poured from the cursed crystal skull that any sane person would run away from in fear, but since we're pirates, we're not afraid of it. And we say to you folks, thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the Pirate Round. We're here with our friends. We have Anne Bernie. We have Bartholomew Roberts. We have Bilge the Bilge Rat, who guards our rum. We have Pyrate, who has her little cannon here, and she'll let you know if she doesn't like things, because all of a sudden the cannon will go off with a boom, and you'll get hit in the back of the head with a little shot that she fires. And now we have Polly Pirate Parrot,
the one-eyed parrot who lost an eye while chasing a parrot or a pigeon.
A pigeon, and she ran into the yard arm and lost an eye. She was too drunk with rum. She had too much rum. And then, of course, there is Captain Redbeard. He's a guest captain today. He's captain of the Orca de Lima.
There's a play on words there. Yeah. Those of you who watch Black Sails, which actually this episode kind of ties into in a wee bit of a way.
In a bit, yeah. So we can segue from Black Sails and Treasure Island into this episode, which is nice.
Right.
But first we're going to say, welcome folks. Welcome to our friends. Thank you so much for joining us, and we're so pleased to have you here. We light a candle here for our friends who have departed, and we give a toast to our friends that we know and who we love and who we have yet to meet, and those we've met and those we care for, and we say merci beaucoup, and we say what's the other French welcome that we say to them?
Well, there's God, I can't remember. There's merci beaucoup, which is thank you. Bonjour is
bonjour. We say bonjour to our friends in the far north there in Canada. We say thank you so much for all your attentions and all your.
How would you say in German?
Willkommen.
Willkommen.
So, guten Tag.
Guten Tag.
Thank you so much, folks, for joining us. And we say to you now, Yarhar.
Yarhar.
Well, Scarlet Raven, it's hard to quantify the effect that the book Treasure Island has had upon the pirate community. People talk about it endlessly. And the characters we have, Captain Flint, Long John Silver,
Billy Bones,
Blind Pew, Jim Hawkins, Dr. Livesey, all of those people. Ben Gunn. All of them. And in, of course, the TV show Black Sails, it's sort of a pre-Treasure Island sort of thing that happens.
Right, the lead up
to it, with the treasure.
It's such an interesting show.
It is such an interesting show. Very deep, well done, and very immersive. Of course, not particularly historically accurate in many ways, but think of it as a fantasy, and you'll get along a lot better in the show. Now, there's been other books, of course, that have come out about what happened at Treasure Island, or what happened afterwards, and that sort of thing. But the books that got me very interested in this whole storyline are actually graphic novels. And I love artwork. I come from an arts background. I love artwork and I love comics to a certain extent. I don't like superhero comics, but I like comics that dramatize stories. And so I kept seeing this certain artwork that kept popping up on Pinterest over and over again. And I thought, what in the world is that from? And I found, lo and behold, that is from a series of graphic novels by Xavier Dorison and Mathieu Laufray, and it's called Long John Silver. And there are 4 of them. So this is the first one, Long John Silver. The first one is called Lady Vivian Hastings, and she is a character in the story. And this takes place after Treasure Island, when Long John, of course, is at the Spyglass Inn, where he's staying with his friends and such. He has a bit of his crew there. And this concerns sort of exploring the new world of the Americas, the North and South America, and a quest that Long John goes on, and his quest for treasure, and how he's sort of lured into this idea, a second sort of treasure island, to make up for the fact that he never really got a whole lot of treasure out of the first one. And here's an idea that he and his crew will become rich beyond their means.
It's an interesting graphic novel. I gave these to the captain on a Yule a few years ago.
That's true.
About 2 years ago.
Yeah. There's 4 of them. So the first one, Lady Vivian Hastings, is the one it starts out with. And of course it's got her as a major character. And it talks about her background and how her husband, Captain Hastings, I think he's called.
Right, Captain Hastings.
How he has traveled to South America in search of the fabled city of Guiana-Capac, where this fabled city was wealthy before the time of the Incas, and all the wealth before the Spanish and everything, and all the wealth of South America had flowed into the city, and this king had wanted to become immortal, and the way to become immortal was to give all the wealth in the whole country, or the whole known continent, to a god who lived deep in the earth, who would give him immortality. And that's the lost city. That's the fable behind the lost city. And lo and behold, Lady Vivian Hastings one rainy night gets a message that her husband, her long-lost husband, is alive, and that she has to immediately sell all her possessions and journey to the New World and meet him there, so that they can hook up and reap the rewards of the treasure that they have found in Guiana-Capac.
Now, interesting logo here with the skull and the crossbones.
Yeah, you see the skull, the jaw.
Fantastic imagery.
It's a great logo, and you've got the cross sabers. Now, I've got to say, the artwork in these is absolutely fantastic. Scarlet Raven, when you page through it a bit and show them some.
There's one in here that's just. Let me see. Well, here's one of the ship with the logo there. Fantastic logo.
It's absolutely fantastic artwork.
There's one in here that was just.
I believe the artist. Let's see. I'm not quite sure. It says in the back. I get the two of them mixed up. I'm not really well versed in French graphic art.
This image here of the Conquistador.
Oh, yes.
And the burning with this. We have the saber. And burning ships. It's a fantastic artwork.
Yeah, so the artwork is by Mathieu Laufray, and the writing is by Xavier Dorison. And they've done just an outstanding job with the artwork, and it's so dramatic and it's so cinematic. It makes you wonder why no one ever made this into a big budget movie.
This could be
the story is fantastic. So the first book is about Lady Vivian Hastings as she has to get a ship then and travel because she's pregnant with another man's wife, another man's baby.
Not to give too much away, but
not to give too much away, but that's part of the complications of the story. Then they travel on a ship called the Neptune, and of course this one is about the Neptune, the ship. So it's about the journey across the ocean and all the things that happen on the ship, all the backstabbing, all the storylines, and all the various things that happen. As the pirates, of course, inevitably they're going to take control of the ship because they want the treasure for themselves. However, they run across some very bad storms, and the ship is mangled and smashed, and all these bad things happen, and eventually they do make it to the New World, but just barely.
I want to say one thing about these books. So the captain has read these twice now. I've started reading them here just a week or two ago, and it's not something you just sit down in an hour or two and you're done like some comic books.
No.
You read the story in this, and then you just want to study each one of the images, because the imagery is just brilliant. I mean, there's a fantastic image of a ship.
It's so
sea.
powerful. It's like looking at paintings. You know, he's done such a good job. Mathieu Laufray has done such a good job at illustrating them. It's really one of those things where I want to look more and find more examples of his work, just to see what he's done and how well he's treated other characters. But the way, the story cells are set is there's close-ups, expansions, horizontals, landscapes, total cinematic sort of huge screens, and the way it's all drawn and blended together.
It could be used as a storyboard alone.
It could be used as a storyboard for a fantastic movie. So as they cross the Atlantic into the Caribbean and they reach supposedly the Amazon or the Orinoco. Now, of course, those are two separate rivers. There's a few problems in the book. One is geography, of course. Amazon or Orinoco. Orinoco is in Venezuela, which is an enormous river in Venezuela. And, of course, there's the Amazon.
Which is a big river.
Which is a super enormous river in Brazil. Two different spots in South America, still in South America, but but they're different areas. In the book, I don't know if it's a translation error from the French or not, but they're sort of treated interchangeably. So you have to sort of suspend your sense of disbelief there and just let it go. I would tend to think that it's really got more to do with the Orinoco. And this is because the Orinoco, of course, flows out of Venezuela in the top of South America. And I know that it flows deeply down into the mountainous areas of that part of the country. And it would be more likely, landscape-wise, to encounter the story where it's set in the mountains and the high cities with the Inca cities there in the mountains. So it makes more sense in my mind that they'd be sailing up the Orinoco. So then, of course, that comes the Emerald Maze. Well, the Emerald Maze, of course, is the maze of rivers in the jungle that they encounter, which in the New World, the jungle, of course, is almost impenetrable. And all the things that happen to the ship as it makes its way along the river, trying to find its way through this maze of greenery. And as the crew is slowly whittled down by various happenings and various instances, and of course, again, fantastic artwork. This being one of the best pictures of all, showing Captain Hastings' ship that was wrecked before. This is the Nimrod, and that was his ship. Of course, they sailed in the Neptune. Captain Hastings sailed in the Nimrod, and you could see them as they approach it in their longboat with Lady Vivian Hastings holding a lantern, and then the wrecked Nimrod. As she approaches, of course, then she finds a journal aboard the Nimrod that basically upends everything that they believe about the story. And, of course, the story changes completely from then on, but it's so amazing. The artwork is just so fantastic and so well drawn. And then you've got the character of Long John Silver, and he's this enormous, brutal, brooding man in a cloak and a big hat with a sword and all the things that he does. You get this idea that he's evil, but yet he also has a certain agenda that is not an evil agenda.
It's very much like Treasure Island.
It is, in a way.
It really holds to the John Silver.
It does. It holds to the John Silver sort of
John Silver
aesthetic.
is this evil, conniving guy, and there, he's so deep.
He's like a good, like a bad good person.
Yeah.
Not a good bad person. He's like a bad good person. He has bad qualities, but he has also very good qualities too. And then that comes to the fourth book, which is called Guyana Capac.
And this is the one I'm halfway through.
Yeah, she's making her way through this one. Guyana Capac, I'll try not to let too much go, but Guyana Capac is the city, the huge giant pyramid full of wealth, enormous wealth.
The ziggurats.
And it's a giant ziggurat deep in the jungle. It's just where everything is. The sky is always dark and rainy. And the people who live there have sort of devolved into this cultish sort of earth god worshipping sort of cult, and it's just so amazing, and the story becomes so in depth and so complex, and you end up with these story cells that are just fantastic with imagery. I got to say that you cannot fail to be mesmerized and really enchanted by the stories and the tales in here. And it's one long giant story that sort of intersperses with different characters and stuff. And of course, this is one of my favorite, the giant ziggurat deep in the jungle. Fantastic painting. I could look at this painting forever. I mean, it's just absolutely amazing.
So, I was just looking at this and I'm thinking, hope pray tell that does not play havoc with the green screen.
Yes. I hope not either, but anything can happen. But you look at this, and there's the giant ziggurat at Guyana Capac, deep in the jungle with the mists and the stormy skies all around it and the brooding air of mystery. And it's just fantastic. So we talked about this for a while, and we wanted to bring it to everybody's notice. If you haven't read them, collect all four, and take your time slowly reading it. Don't rush through it like people just page quickly. Read each cell, read the dialogue, and look at the characters, because they're all hand-drawn, and they've done such a very, very, very good job drawing them. The artwork is fantastic, and it really reinforces my faith that some of the best comic books in the world come from Europe, France, Italy, places like that, where they're free of the strictures of just creating endless superhero tropes, but you're also taking stories, and in this one, of course, it's Treasure Island and piratical stories, and really extending the storyline out from the original Treasure Island into something else.
Now, speaking of graphic novels, there is a new graphic novel that's going to be hitting here probably about the time we air this, called Man Among Ye, which is about Anne Bonny.
Oh, yes. Yeah, that's another one we're looking into.
Image Comics, I believe it is.
Yeah.
I can find it on and get it pre-ordered for tablets and things like that, but I'd rather have a physical copy if I can find it. I might even have to start going to a comic book store just to make sure I get it. But
yeah, that's true. If you're a book lover, and I'm a book lover, of course, and I love
if you
books
saw our
like that.
live here recently,
the idea of holding a book of art in your hand, to me, rather than on an electronic device, is everything. I want the physical copy in my hand, because as we all know, and unfortunately in the times we live in now, when we're going to have problems with electricity and people and technology, this will never run out of batteries.
This will never get hacked.
And it will always be there for you to read, and always be there for your solace, and always be there to tell stories to people. And really, folks, isn't our lives really just about telling stories to each other?
Yes.
About things, about legends and lore, and taking the same old stories and telling them again and again, and how we educate each other and entertain each other. So, folks, I recommend these completely and totally as story, as art, as entertainment, as thought-provoking, as so many things. And, you know, in the interesting way, the characters in this book who you think are good, well, they're not always that good, but the characters who you think are evil are not always that evil.
Right.
And so the characters that carry on from Treasure Island, of course, in this are Long John Silver.
There's the Doctor. And
Dr. Livesey. Two of the main characters, and of course it's Dr. Livesey narrates quite a bit of it, and just like in the story. And so it ends up being a very well done sort of narrative. So I can't recommend these anymore. They are just absolutely fantastic. And if you have a chance to run across the artwork, if it's on Pinterest or wherever, then you'll see some of the work for it. It's just very striking. So there you go. Long John Silver, a 4-part graphic novel. I believe it's written by Xavier Dorison and drawn by Mathieu Laufray. Apologies to my French friends. I'm not that good with the language, but we're working at it. So, folks, highly recommended. Highly recommended. So we're going to close out this episode with a bit of Jamaican Mountain Red from the Crystal Skull. And Scarlet Raven and I are going to bid you adieu. And adieu to you and you and you. And we're going to say, folks, thank you so much for watching this episode. If you have any ideas about episodes you'd like us to do, please email us or let us know through Messenger and say, hey, why don't you guys do an episode about this? Or why don't you guys do an episode about that?
We'll gladly do it.
We'll gladly. I mean, one of the things we thought about doing is one about hats, or pirate weapons, or parrots, or maps.
We've done a few about
or rats.
Weapons. We were actually talking, we need to do a little bit more research on it. We've got some of the books on it. But a certain pirate hunter.
Right.
That tied in with a previous episode.
Yes, I mean, we've got a lot of storylines that we'd like to do and a lot of people and everything. But if you have any ideas, well, let us know and we'll try to work them in somehow. So, folks, thank you so much for viewing this episode of The Pirate Round. I be Captain Scultopus here. This be the Scarlet Raven. And
this be our wonderful crew.
We be our crew here. And we say to you folks, always be strong. Always be true to yourself. Always be a pirate. Don't let anyone grind you under their boot heel. You know, you be a pirate, and you don't have to take shite from nobody.
Always be yourself.
Always be yourself. Be true to yourself, and be careful, folks. Take care of your families and your loved ones and yourself. We say to you, thank you so much. Smooth sailing in your heart.
Your heart.